5G will be a massive opportunity for businesses. It's going to be a transformative technology that will allow companies to differentiate themselves in ways we can't even imagine yet. IT organizations have the opportunity to lead this transformation, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Hi, I'm Steve Murphy. I'm a vice president at ARG, and while I work for ARG, this video is my own and doesn't necessarily reflect the views of my employer. We're going to discuss what 5G is at a very high level. We're not going to dive into the technologies. We're going to talk about the impacts. And then we're going to look at what history tells us about the development and transformation power of new wireless technologies. We're going to discuss why 5G will be a huge opportunity for us as an organization, and how you should prepare for the 5G transformation. And then lastly, what can you do to lead that transformation? Now, I imagine everyone knows what 5G is in general terms. It's the newest, fastest deployment of wireless technology. It requires a huge amount of spectrum. So wireless communication providers are buying up large swaths of wireless spectrum frequency, essentially, to support their 5G endeavors. 5G promises speeds that will average early on at 100 megs per second, and will get up to 20 gigs per second when fully mature. That's relative to today's experience, where we're averaging about 10 megs per second on a 4G LTE network, and maybe maxing out at 100 megs per second. Now, 5G deployments just started in 2019. 5G networks are available in several major metropolitan areas right now, but they really haven't been built out nationally. All of the three major providers in the United States have different 5G strategies, so all are claiming some form of leadership based upon their own particular strategies today. Now, in order to take advantage of 5G today, you need a new handset. It's not going to replace landline services anytime, so these speeds will not really impact your broadband service at home or your fiber-based service at an office environment. But using SD-WAN to take advantage of 5G and where appropriate might be a great strategy. The reason why we really won't replace landlines anytime soon is that the consumption model, the pricing model, really haven't been developed to support business or commercial-based applications. It's really going to be a consumer-based technology. And the other thing that needs to happen within the industry is that the backhaul, the IP networks and edge computing really have to make some pretty substantial leaps forward in order to support the 5G capacity or throughput that's available. As I said, it's really going to be a consumer-first experience, and that forces us as organizations to figure out how we can serve our products and services up to consumers in a 5G environment. I think it's helpful to go through the history of wireless networking so we can understand the impact that each generation had on us as an organization and as a society at large. So the first G, or 1G cellular networking, introduced in the 1980s, allowed us to conduct basic voice conversations away from our desks, away from the landline. This allowed us to become a more mobile society. It increased safety dramatically and increased productivity as well. Conversations became more fluid and more seamless, and people were able to communicate in the moment rather than waiting until they got back to a communication platform. The next wave allowed for digital voice and text services. This allowed a multi-messaging environment where you could send emails and send text messages and leave voice messages and so forth. So you had many alternatives in terms of your messaging and communication options with that second generation service. The third generation is when smartphones became popular and basic web browsing was available. This provided the opportunity for people to get information immediately. Googling or looking up information became the norm. It also allowed social media outlets like Facebook and LinkedIn to become more popular and really become a dominant force in our society. The fourth generation, introduced in the 2010s, created the ability to stream content. Bandwidths were sufficient to video enable our communications and our entertainment. So we started to video conference, which brought us closer together, especially with friends and family and business associates in far off places. Things like YouTube, Zoom, and Skype became popular. Now this fifth generation, I'm calling the imagination generation. We don't know what is going to be transformative about 5G, but I know it's going to be impactful. And it's really up to the limits of our imagination to determine how we take advantage of this new technology. Why will 5G be so important? Well, first I want to emphasize that we're not there yet, and we're not going to be in a 5G immersive environment for many years to come. But we have to start planning, and we have to start conceptualizing where we will take our organizations when 5G does become prevalent. I like to use the electric car as an analogy. 10 years ago, electric cars were a novelty. Now, I'd be surprised if electric cars don't dominate the auto industry in just a few years. So it took several years to ramp, and then it's going to become dominant. I think 5G will follow that same path. So we have to start now and starting to conceptualize how we'll take advantage. Now, the first thing is that apps and content that can benefit from 5G have yet to be developed. And this is a big difference that will change the way we adopt 5G versus 4G, for example. In the 4G universe, we had a lot of content already established. There were over 250 episodes of Friends, for example, that people could download immediately in the 4G environment. In the 5G environment, we're going to be spending a little bit more time developing new content and new services. It's a greenfield opportunity for those who move early and smartly. So we have to approach carefully. This will take some time to evolve, but we have to start now or be left behind. Now, I believe that 5G will revolutionize almost every industry, especially those that rely on communications or spatial relationships. And this is what I'm talking about. So, for example, some or all of retail will be radically transformed by 5G. So will any sort of social venues or office space. These organizations, these environments will have to change substantially, and many actually may be replaced by virtual environments that we can all attend and enjoy without leaving the comfort of our home, using that 5G experience. Education will become virtual reality based. Think about learning a language or learning a science. Students will be transported to the country where their language is spoken, or to NASA to learn about astronomy virtually. This transportation will happen virtually. They'll be immersed in these environments, and learning will become an extraordinary experience. Medicine's another example. Hospitals may be transformed into only caring for the most critical patients. Home-based care with machines and monitoring equipment can be established within the home, and the 5G network can support the monitoring capabilities of that patient and of those machines, and dispatch healthcare workers when necessary. Again, this transformation is going to take time, and we can use this time to prepare. So what I suggest to our clients is that they start to ideate around what 5G might mean for their businesses, and then start to initiate some planning and strategic actions to start to formulate an approach. So what might that look like in these early days? First of all, I would recommend that you issue 5G phones to all of your employees. If you don't have a corporate wireless program today, now might be the time to restart one. I want to make the point that because 5G requires new handsets, you probably want to start with less expensive devices. The 5G capable iPhones, for example, are over $1,000. You can get a 5G enabled Motorola device, for example, for under $300 today. I would suggest you go inexpensive to start, and then decide whether or not the more expensive devices are necessary. Today, in my view, they probably are not to start that 5G experience. But ensure that they all have cameras. Don't go so inexpensive that your phone doesn't have a camera, because that's going to be a critical part of the 5G experience going forward. And then once you've issued your 5G devices to some or all of your users, start to listen. Figure out how they are using it, how they see opportunities in the marketplace, and start to develop your multi-year strategy, taking that input. Keep a running list of possible use cases for your organization, and make sure you don't discard any. Some may seem very far-fetched, but the far-fetched idea may become brilliant in 3 or 4 years once capabilities have evolved. You probably also want to start exploring other 5G related technologies, things like IoT, or the Internet of Things, automation and robotics, and augmented reality. Be careful of making big investments at this point in time. We're not trying to change organizations radically. We're trying to find pockets of opportunity. So several small investments, such as pilots or experiments, or investing and going off to trade shows or other industry events to learn more, are probably your best bets for making initial investments into your 5G strategy and thought process. So lastly, how can you lead? No matter where you are in the organization, I think coming up with a SWOT analysis is a great place to start. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, but it's a 360-degree evaluation of your organization, and specific in this case to how 5G might enable you to provide better, more innovative services to your clients. Begin discussing these 5G opportunities with marketing and operations. They'll probably be some of your best advocates in terms of what is possible to develop in terms of customer-facing solutions and productivity improvements. Now, IT is perfectly capable of leading these discussions, although marketing and operations will probably want to assert themselves, but fundamentally this is a technology service, a technology advantage, and IT has to be in the middle of all of these planning conversations. Create small working groups with specific roles and accountabilities. It's really important to get people who are really passionate about the 5G space into these groups, so they can let their passion create some energy within these groups. And also, I would recommend that you seek to drive revenue and reduce costs first. There'll be a lot of alternatives in terms of HR improvements or management improvements and so forth that are possible with 5G. But in order to get management buy-in, you need to show financial business cases that result in either more revenue or reduced costs. Both of those will generally result in more profitability. And when you can show an increased profitability, you can generally get your business cases funded. Lastly, consultants are interesting, and there will be a lot of 5G consultants out there. Use them after you've done some baseline work. Don't have them come in and create a strategy for you. They don't know your business. So bring them in after you've done some work there and allow them to, or ask them to poke holes in your assessment, find vulnerabilities, find opportunities for improvement, but don't let them create an entire 5G strategy for your business. It will probably sit on a shelf someplace for quite some time. And then lastly, you always want to make sure that you're briefing senior management on a regular basis. Senior management needs to be informed of these 5G opportunities. They will probably want to slow roll this process a little bit because it is speculative at this point, and you want to be completely open to that feedback. It is speculative, but it'll also transform the business, and that's why senior management needs to be involved in these transformation discussions. So lastly, I want to leave you with the thought that this is going to be really fun. It's going to be really exciting. There'll be some fits and starts and there'll be some failures. But ultimately, if you start now to envision what the future might offer, you'll be in a much better shape to take advantage of that future when the opportunities present themselves. As for next steps, as I always conclude, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to have a conversation on 5G services or anything else that you might be interested in. My contact information is in the description of this video. And if you got some value out of this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and thank you very much in advance for doing that. And if you want to come back to this channel in the future, the best way of finding your way back here is by clicking that subscribe button. That will put my channel into your feed and allow you to come back here at your convenience. And with that, I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great day.